The courtroom doors opened at 2:15 p.m., and 23-year-old Isabella Sterling walked in like she owned the building. Her Prada suit, $4,800, was immaculate, and her Louboutin heels clicked with authority on the marble floor. Diamond earrings that could pay off someone's mortgage caught the afternoon light. Behind her walked not one, but two attorneys in suits that screamed billable hours, and a woman carrying an iPad who was clearly a family representative. Isabella didn't look worried. She looked bored. Before we dive into what happened in that courtroom, if you believe in justice and want to support a new channel dedicated to sharing these powerful stories, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Every subscription helps us bring more of Judge Caprio's wisdom to light. The bailiff called the case. The People versus Isabella Catherine Sterling, case number 2124, TRF 19876. Charges: illegal parking in disabled accessible space, destruction of official citation, failure to appear. 3 counts. Total fines and penalties: $200. Isabella's lead attorney stepped forward immediately. Your Honor, Lawrence Mitchell, representing Miss Sterling. We're prepared to resolve this matter quickly. My client acknowledges the parking violation and is ready to pay all fines and fees today. Judge Frank Caprio looked up from the thick file before him, his 37 years on the bench telling him this case was more complicated than a simple parking ticket. Miss Sterling, please approach the bench. Isabella walked forward with absolute confidence, her designer bag, her mess, probably $18,000, dangling from her arm. Your Honor, I really don't see why this requires a court appearance. My attorney has a check ready. Can we just settle this and move on? I have a flight to catch. Miss Sterling, you failed to appear for 3 scheduled hearings. Why? Isabella shrugged. I was traveling. London, Dubai, Singapore. My father's company has global operations. I didn't realize these hearings were mandatory. You received certified mail for each hearing date. The delivery confirmations are in the file. I have people who handle my mail. They must have missed them. She said it like it explained everything. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Ms. Sterling, I'm looking at the initial incident report from Parking Enforcement Officer Maria Santos. It says you parked in a disabled accessible space outside Providence City Hall on September 28th. When Officer Santos issued a citation, you tore it up in front of her. Is that accurate? I may have been frustrated. The regular parking was full. I was only running inside for 10 minutes, and I didn't think it was a big deal. You tore up an official citation. It was a piece of paper. I planned to pay whatever fine they wanted to send me. I didn't think physically destroying the ticket mattered as long as I paid eventually. What happened next would stun the entire courtroom. Judge Caprio picked up a small evidence bag containing pieces of torn paper. This is the citation you destroyed. Officer Santos collected the pieces. He set it down and picked up a tablet. Officer Santos was also wearing a body camera. I'd like to play that footage for the court. Isabella's attorney jumped up. Your Honor, is video evidence really necessary for a parking violation? Mr. Mitchell, your client is charged with more than a parking violation. She's charged with destruction of official documents and contempt. Yes, the video is necessary. Play it. The courtroom monitor showed body camera footage, time-stamped September 28th, 11:45 a.m. The video showed a white Bentley Continental GT, $230,000, parked in a clearly marked disabled accessible space with blue painted lines and signage. Parking Enforcement Officer Maria Santos approached and began writing a citation. Then Isabella appeared, carrying shopping bags. Her voice came through clearly. What are you doing? Ma'am, I'm citing your vehicle for parking in a disabled space without proper identification. Are you serious? I was inside for like 5 minutes. There's no one here who needs this spot. Ma'am, the space must remain available for people with disabilities at all times. Isabella's voice took on a sharp edge. Do you know who my father is? Marcus Sterling, Sterling Tech Industries. Maybe you've heard of it? Officer Santos remained professional. Ma'am, I need to complete this citation. My family donates millions to this city. Millions. Museums, libraries, community centers. We basically fund half of Providence's cultural programs. So maybe you should think carefully before you waste my time with this. Ma'am, that doesn't change the parking violation. Then Isabella did something shocking. She grabbed the citation from Officer Santos's hand and tore it into pieces, letting them fall to the ground. There. Ticket gone. Problem solved. If you want to write another one, go ahead. I'll tear that up too. My family funds this city, so technically, I'm paying your salary. Officer Santos's voice remained calm but firm. Ma'am, destroying an official citation is a criminal offense. I'm going to have to call for a supervisor. Call whoever you want. My father plays golf with the mayor. One phone call, and you'll be writing parking tickets in the worst neighborhood in the city. Actually, you know what? You'll be unemployed. The video ended. The courtroom was dead silent. If Judge Caprio's compassion moves you like it moves millions of others, show your support by subscribing to our channel. We're just starting out, and your subscription means everything. Isabella stood rigid at the defense table. Her attorneys were whispering frantically. The family representative was typing urgently on her iPad. Judge Caprio set down the tablet and looked at Isabella for what felt like an eternity. 5 seconds. 7 seconds. 10 seconds. 12 seconds of complete silence. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet, but carrying absolute authority. That was the moment money ran out of jurisdiction. Isabella's confidence cracked slightly. Your Honor, I was having a bad day. I shouldn't have said those things. Ms. Sterling, you told a public servant that your family funds the city, that you were paying her salary, and that you'd have her fired. Then you destroyed official documents and threatened her job. Those aren't words said in frustration. Those are words that reveal exactly what you believe, that wealth purchases immunity from the law. I didn't mean. Judge Caprio held up a document. This is interesting. After you failed to appear for your first hearing, my clerk received a phone call from someone identifying themselves as being from Sterling Tech Industries donor relations. They asked about quietly resolving this matter. My clerk explained that's not how the court system works. 2 days later, we received an email from your family's civic philanthropy liaison asking if there were alternative resolution pathways for valued community partners. Would you like to explain that? Isabella's face went pale. Her attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, Ms. Sterling had no knowledge of those communications. Mr. Mitchell, someone from your client's family, attempted to use their charitable donations to influence this court's proceedings. Whether Ms. Sterling knew about it or not, it reveals a pattern of believing money can solve legal problems. The family representative stood up from the gallery. Your Honor, may I speak? I'm Catherine Wells, representing the Sterling Family Foundation. Those communications were made in error by well-meaning staff who, Ms. Wells, sit down. You're not a party to these proceedings. Judge Caprio turned back to Isabella. Ms. Sterling, do you understand why you're here? Because I parked illegally and tore up a ticket. You're here because you believe your family's wealth places you above the rules that govern everyone else. You're here because, when confronted with consequences, you threatened a public servant. You're here because your family tried to use charitable donations as leverage. This isn't about a parking ticket anymore. This is about whether money can purchase immunity from accountability. Isabella's voice rose defensively. My family has given $30 million to Providence over the past decade. Museums, scholarships, public art installations. We've done more for this city than most people will contribute in their entire lives. So yes, I think that should count for something. Count for what, exactly? Exemption from disabled parking laws? The right to destroy official documents? The ability to threaten police officers? I'm saying there should be context. We're not just random citizens. We're benefactors. We make this city better. Judge Caprio stood up from his bench. Ms. Sterling, let me tell you about someone else who was at City Hall that day. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She's 34 years old, and she has a daughter named Emma, age 6, who has cerebral palsy. Sarah had an appointment at City Hall to apply for disability services for Emma. She drives a 12-year-old Honda because that's all she can afford. When she arrived, the only disabled parking space, the one you were occupying, was taken. She had to park 3 blocks away and carry Emma, who weighs 45 pounds and can't walk independently. Isabella said nothing, but her face showed the first hint of shame. Sarah was 20 minutes late to her appointment because of that walk. She had to reschedule, which meant taking another day off from her job as a home health aide, a job she desperately needs. Emma missed her physical therapy session that afternoon because Sarah was too exhausted from carrying her all that distance. That's the real-world consequence of your 5-minute parking decision. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. You saw an empty parking space and took it because your time mattered more than anyone else's needs. Then, when confronted with consequences, you used your family's wealth as a weapon. Isabella's attorney tried again. Your Honor, my client is prepared to pay all fines and make a generous donation to disability services. Mr. Mitchell, this court is not a payment portal. Your client can't write a check to make this go away. Judge Caprio sat back down. Ms. Sterling, the standard fine for parking in a disabled space is $350. The fine for destroying official documents is $200. The fines for 3 failures to appear total $450. But those numbers don't begin to address the actual problem here. So here's what's going to happen. The courtroom held its breath. Total fines and fees, $1,800. You'll pay that today before you leave this courthouse. Isabella nodded, relieved it was just money. Second, you will issue written apologies to Officer Santos and to Sarah Mitchell. Not apologies written by PR professionals. Apologies written by you, in your own words, acknowledging specifically what you did wrong. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Third, you will complete 200 hours of community service. 100 hours will be served at the Providence Food Bank. The other 100 will be served with the Rhode Island Mobility Access Coalition, working directly with families who need disabled parking accommodations. Isabella's mouth fell open. 200 hours? Fourth, you will create and appear in 2 public service announcements, subject to this court's approval, about disability access and parking laws. These will be shown in schools and community centers throughout Providence. You want me on camera? I want the community to see that accountability applies to everyone. Fifth, you will complete an ethics course on donor influence and conflicts of interest. The Sterling Family Foundation does important work in this city, but that work must never be used as leverage in legal proceedings. Isabella was shaking now. This is excessive. It's punitive. No, Ms. Sterling. Punitive would be jail time, which is within my authority given your contempt and destruction of official documents. What I'm offering you is an education. You're 23 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. You can either learn now that wealth doesn't equal immunity, or you can keep believing it until you face consequences far worse than community service. Judge Caprio pulled out a document. Finally, I'm ordering the Providence Court Administrator to implement new procedures. From now on, any attempt by donors or their representatives to influence case outcomes must be logged publicly. Any communication from donor-connected entities about pending cases must include supervisory oversight. And parking enforcement for disabled spaces will now include immediate towing, not just citations. Isabella found her voice. You're changing city policy because of me? I'm changing city policy because your case revealed a systemic problem. Your family isn't the first to believe donations purchase special treatment. But you're going to be the last case where that belief goes unaddressed. The family representative stood again. Your Honor, the Sterling family has always operated with the highest ethical standards. Then they'll welcome these reforms. Court is adjourned. Ms. Sterling, you have 14 days to begin your community service and submit your written apologies. Failure to comply will result in a warrant for your arrest. As Isabella gathered her things, Officer Santos stood near the exit. Isabella tried to walk past, but the officer spoke quietly. Ms. Sterling, I hope you'll understand that disabled spaces exist for people who truly need them. I was just doing my job. Isabella stopped, looked at the officer, and for the first time, tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. 3 months later, Isabella Sterling was different. The community service at the food bank had shown her family struggling with poverty she'd never imagined. Working with the Mobility Access Coalition, she met Emma Mitchell and her mother Sarah, the people directly affected by her parking decision. She listened to their stories, learned about the daily challenges of disability, and understood for the first time that convenience for her meant hardship for others. The PSAs she created went viral. In them, she spoke honestly about her entitlement, her belief that wealth made rules optional, and what she'd learned. I told the judge, I own you, she said to the camera. I was wrong. Money builds cities, but only respect keeps them standing. The policy reforms Judge Caprio ordered became a model for other cities. The public logging of donor influence attempts revealed patterns across multiple cases and led to stricter ethics guidelines. The immediate tow policy for disabled parking violations reduced illegal parking in those spaces by 70%. When Isabella completed her 200 hours and returned to thank Judge Caprio, she came alone. No attorneys, no family representatives, no entourage. Your Honor, I wanted to tell you that I've joined the board of the Mobility Access Coalition. Not as a Sterling. I didn't use my family name in the application. I want to help, but I want to help the right way. Judge Caprio smiled gently. That's growth, Ms. Sterling. That's what this was always about. If this story touched your heart, if you believe judges like Frank Caprio represent the best of our justice system, please support our new channel by subscribing and liking this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice and compassion can coexist. Comment below with your city. Let's build a community that believes in fairness for all. 2 years later, Isabella Sterling was known less as a billionaire's daughter and more as a disability rights advocate. She'd started a scholarship fund, using her own money, not her family's, for families affected by disability. She volunteered weekly at the food bank, and she'd never parked in a disabled space again, always choosing to walk from distant parking rather than take a space someone else might need. Judge Caprio kept the torn citation pieces in a frame on his desk, a reminder that sometimes the most entitled people become the most committed advocates once they understand their privilege. The 12 seconds of silence before his ruling had become legendary in legal circles. The moment a judge chose transformation over punishment, accountability over acceptance of a check. The lesson echoed across Providence and beyond, that charitable donations don't purchase immunity, that public service requires humility, and that the courtroom truly is the great equalizer, where I own you meets no one owns justice. Isabella walked into that courtroom believing her family's wealth made her untouchable. She walked out understanding that real power comes not from what you own, but from recognizing what you owe to your community, your conscience, and the people whose struggles you once ignored. That's not just justice, that's transformation.